Hey, good morning. How y'all doing? It is Well Red Beard. It's a damn fine day to talk about a book, and today we are here for a book review. It's a five-star book review. Well, the review's not five stars, but the book for me was five stars. I absolutely loved this book. And I haven't given five stars to any other book in recent memory. So let's talk about it. The Saturday Night Ghost Club by Craig Davidson. I have owned this book. I want to say this is the third time and didn't read it. That's the funniest thing about it. The cover, wow, kind of cool, like almost elementary. I mean, I don't want to call it not dynamic, but for whatever reason, I had the book and I didn't pick it up. I actually liked the cover, but again, I've had it a couple times, picked it up here and there, um, you know, dumped it, got rid of it. And this one here I bought as a $5 book at a Barnes and Noble Starbucks. Again, I often buy those. I rarely read these, which is weird because they're usually things that are at least adjacent with what I read. But so this one, I was going to read it. I was going to read one of these $5 Starbucks books, and part of it because I've read some longish things here lately, and I knew that this one was roughly a couple hundred pages, 211 pages or so. But I don't know, I just picked it up. I did not remember that I kind of knew Craig Davidson until I read like the intro or whatever. Craig Davidson is Nick Cutter. Nick Cutter is Craig Davidson. That's not a spoiler. I mean, that's I guess widely known. I have read The Troop by Nick Cutter a while back. Before really doing these types of reviews. I want to say I did another one by him. I don't know that I've read a title by Craig Davidson though, but very interested. I mean, matter of fact, um, sitting here, I'm like, why haven't I already looked up what else is out there from Craig Davidson? Because I need more after this book. I mean, it's coming of age, it's urban legends, it's local urban legends, all the backdrop of the Niagara Falls area. I've been there once. But imagine like growing up there. Imagine living in that area. Imagine the Niagara River and the Cascades or whatever they call it, and the falls. I mean, of course, stories of children slipping in the water and going over the falls and never to be found again. Just imagine growing up in that type of area. I mean, every place has its own magic, but something about that definitely grabbed me. But yeah, it's all of that. It's urban legend. It's local ghost stories. It's the local haunts of this area. It's multiple things. I'm going to read the synopsis, which is pretty short, so stay around, and then we'll talk a little bit more about it. A little blurb here says an irresistible coming of age story about a group of misfit kids who spend an unforgettable summer investigating local ghost stories and urban legends. Now, before I go any further, I mean, again, this is a ghost book. There's creepy stuff in this book, but like Craig Davidson, to my understanding, Nick Cutter is his horror pen name. This is more his literary. I mean, I think it's his real name. I don't know. But so what I'm saying is this is definitely horror-esque. It's definitely horror-like. There's definitely horror elements here, but it's not a Nick Cutter type book, I guess. All right, the real synopsis. Here we go. Growing up in 1980s Niagara Falls, a seedy but magical, slightly haunted place, Jake Baker spends most of his time with his uncle Calvin, a kind but eccentric enthusiast of occult artifacts and conspiracy theories. The summer Jake turns 12, he befriends a pair of siblings new to town, and so Calvin initiates them all into the Saturday Night Ghost Club. But as the summer goes on, what begins as a seemingly lighthearted project will uncover mysteries darker than any of its members, young or grown, had imagined. With the alternating warmth and heartbreak of the best coming of age stories, the Saturday Night Ghost Club is a note perfect novel that establishes Craig Davidson as a remarkable literary talent. Agree. Agree with all that. The coming of age elements of this are, I mean, it just, I don't know what it is, and I've spoke on this in the past, and I'm not going to go into it, but that 1980s 12-year-old magic, I lived it, and the summers were long, and and I mean, we went everywhere on our bikes, and again, not to be an old man, but no internet, no cell phones. I mean, 8-bit video games at home. I mean, that you could play for a little bit, but it wasn't like you could sit on that shit all day long. We read books, kids. We the local library was not a place for nerds, or maybe it was, but it was a place for everybody, and anyway, just gosh, I'm old, nostalgic, but magical. I mean, think Stand By Me, think The Body by Stephen King, think Boy's Life, Robert McCammon. I mean, think all those wonderful coming of age novels, and this is one of those, but only 200 pages in length, which again was cool. It was. I mean, to be honest with you, I read this. I read more of this in fewer settings than anything I've read recently. I mean, I'm not one of these people that necessarily can sit down and knock out a 200-page book in a day. I mean, I could, but I read 120 pages of this in the first sitting. I mean, basically, started on the couch, read, took it to bed, read 120 pages, gone. And then last night, read a little bit longer than I wanted to, but 80 pages done. And it's just great. I mean, it's a great book. So the urban legend parts, yeah, we got this Saturday Night Ghost Club. So it's kind of like in segments. It's broke out into like events, right? Like one of them is let's see, what's the first one? The first one, oh, it's like a screaming tunnel, right? Like this girl, um, her, like if you go in there and you light a match, she'll you'll see her, like you'll see this ghostly girl. I'm not going to go into the backstory of why she's there, but you'll see this ghostly girl, and your match will go out, and then you're alone in the dark with her, right? And then I think the second one is an automobile accident that happened on a bridge across a lake, and it was late at night, and the car went off the bridge into the water, and the family drowned in the car, and when the sun hits it right, you see the woman floating above the water or whatever, um and then another one was like a burned out house where like the people in the house had died, and it's not exactly what happened there, but I'm not going to go into that part. But anyway, you get to point all these like urban legends, and each one almost hits like a miniature, almost hits like a story within a story a little bit. Like, I mean, there was excitement. I mean, I was excited to see what the Saturday Night Ghost Club was going to do next. Our main character, Jake Baker, he's a bit of an outcast, bit of a, you know, I don't know. I hate to use the word nerd. Maybe he's a nerd. I mean, unathletic sort, or whatever you will, and had a lot of trouble with friends, had a lot of trouble maintaining friends. I mean, it talks early about one kid that came to town that was his friend over the summer, but when school started, he completely abandoned him for the cooler kids. But he meets a pair of new to the area kids. They are, um, I want to say Native American, but this happens, I believe, on the Canadian side of Niagara Falls. So Native Canadian, is that how you say that? I'm not exactly sure. But anyway, he meets them. So there's a lot of like magical native type stuff in their history. But they become fast friends. There's a 12-year-old boy, I think, roughly, and then his 14-year-old sister. Of course, there's some you know, not romance, but definitely infatuation with this 14-year-old girl. But Uncle Calvin is really the coolest part of the book, and he owns this occult store in town. This with shrunken heads and um, ingredients to make potions and spells and all that stuff. I mean, again, magic for a 12-year-old probably, but I don't want to go into it too much. But at the end of the day, at the end of this book, all of these urban legends are wrapped up into this um in in a way that bring them a lot closer to home than just something that is a local haunt in the community, something that happened, in the history of this community. That it brings it all together, and it brings it again just a lot closer to home for our characters, and thus closer for us as a reader. Um, yeah, and that part of the story that you get near the end of the book, I found it, I mean, heartbreaking, but absolutely beautiful. Yeah, I don't know. Look, I love this book. I mean, I get to places in my reading where I get super judgy about books. Sometimes one will break through and just steal all of that away. And I'm not trying to take anything away from the 5-star rating. I don't give them very easily. And so for me, it was just pure enjoyment. Still a lot of horror elements, but maybe a little bit lighter hearted than some of the stuff I've been reading recently. I've been reading a lot of dark stuff. This had a little bit of a lighter hearted feel to it, but just pure reading enjoyment. I wish it was longer. I mean, I wish this was a 500-page book. I'm being honest with you. So, gonna check out more Craig Davidson for sure. May go back and check out some more Nick Cutter, but I'm thinking that maybe the magic is, for me in this case, in the fact that it wasn't, I mean, again, full of horror elements, full of them, but it wasn't super gory or super horrific or anything like that. So, gonna definitely go see what Craig Davidson has out there besides this. So, yeah, this is the Saturday Night Ghost Club. Absolutely loved it, and crazy that I've had it 3 times and let it go and didn't read it and just happened on a whim. I mean, if this was not sitting for $5 at Barnes and Noble, Starbucks, I would have continued to miss out on a great book. So, Saturday Night Ghost Club, Craig Davidson, Well Red Beard. Hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you're enjoying all of them. All your books as much as I am. If not, you are reading the wrong damn books.